Hello, happy September 20th. Welcome to this week's episode of Puck Dynasty. We are 15 days away from opening night or so. Debert, how are you, my friend?
Oh, it's the eve of preseason hockey, my friend.
Well, not
Does it get much better than that?
Close.
It's the eve of preseason hockey.
Oh, preseason. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tomorrow.
And last week was the eve of, was it the eve of rookie camp?
The night before rookie camp, yeah. We're timing this well.
We're just nailing this, yeah. Early in the year, we're obviously not in preseason mode. We're like right in there.
I don't know. You did get up to P last week, so that tells me you're not in mid-season form.
It'll happen. I got a trade offer in the works going on right now. I don't know how it's gonna unfold, but should I talk about it right here, right now? Will anyone in our league be listening?
John might, but tell you what, I'm gonna go ahead and guess you're talking to Steve.
No, I'm not.
Oh, interesting.
No, Staten.
Wow.
So he asked me for Caden Gooley.
Yeah.
And I gave him the whole, because he just acquired Lane Hudson. And I gave him the whole, what I love about Gooley is he's probably going to be paired with Lane Hudson down the road. So he's going to be playing with the best offensive players in Montreal, plus the blocks, plus the hits, the plus minuses. Blah, blah, blah. Did my normal sell job. And then I looked at his team. He's got like Fantilli, Wallstead, Hudson, like I said. And I was like, you know what? The one guy I can maybe do it for is Frank Nazar. And so he's thinking about it right now. I don't think he'll pull the trigger. I'm tempted to go back at him and offer more, but I just want to wait and see what he has to say.
I think he's smarter than that. Well done.
I think he is too. Yeah, not bad.
Did you see any of Nazar in the preseason? He looks great.
He was the best player on the ice for most of the games. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a guy we're gonna get to. I love talking trade in our league. I was actually thinking about also saying we were talking about a guy earlier who doesn't have the best table manners, doesn't have the best temperament, and him and I were talking about something, and he sent a rather snooty reply back, and I was just like, you wonder why you're always in the middle, man. Like no one wants to talk to you. You have to. For you folks listening out there, be nice when you're doing trade talks, unless you never want to deal with the guy again. In which case, light him up.
Yeah.
But if you want to talk trades with people, be a nice freaking person, Just life tip in general. Probably our first life tip on this show. Don't be a dick, because you're not going to get invited. You see was that what the Islanders? No, who said that this week? One of the GMs was like, our mentality is no dickheads.
Like in the show?
Like in the NHL.
Like Lou Lamoriello?
You didn't see it, hey?
No. Oh, another tip for leagues. If a guy makes a trade, whether it's like really good or mediocre, tell him good trade. People love that shit.
It's true. They very much do. Sorry.
Who doesn't love to hear after
Fitzgerald in New Jersey after he signed the Mercer deal? He said, our summer strategy was no dickheads. So not just...
Did they sign Mercer today?
Don't admit that you're not up to date when we're live.
But no, what happened? Mercer, was he signed today?
He signed last night during the Jets game, at the Jets game. 3 years.
Oh, at the football game.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah.
3 years.
What was the number on that?
3 years, $4 million.
Per? Obviously, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? $1.23 million a year? No. It's $4 million a season. And I guess we know now, Mercer, not a dickhead. And to all you GMs out there, you should follow suit. Anyways, we've already covered off Frank Nazar and Mercer. Those are two of the things I wanted to talk about today, and we're only 4.5 minutes in. We're going to get back into our normal flow of things this episode. There's a lot to talk about around the NHL, and there's a lot to talk about from rookie camp. And there's also some notes of some stuff that is happening for, kind of need to know as far as get the leg up in trade talks or drafts. So we got a lot to get to. So let's start with our around the NHL stuff. It has been a wild week for contracts, And if there's one thing that I think we're learning right now, it's any contract being signed with term at this point, I think takes priority over winning the negotiation right now for GMs. Hey?
Yeah, it seems like it. Like it's The Moritz Seider ones, interesting how they went 7 years instead of eight. Like so what you're seeing now is agents want their players to be UFAs at 30 or younger. They don't want that 31. So it's like when 30 or younger, you get a better contract. Apparently, that's the cliff for most players. So yeah, 7 years for Seider versus 8, and obviously that brought the cap down, maybe even close to $1 million a year. And then, but yeah, the term is king, and whatever it takes, really. Like we had Raymond, you had Seider. Today we had Gunther, another great deal. And it's like Gunther is a crazy one because like how many NHL games has he played? Like,
under 80. I think 78 is that number. I don't know how crazy it is though. I've been thinking about this one a lot today, and every game he plays this year, even if he plays at the same pace he played last year, which I don't think he will, I think he'll probably take a little bit of a step back. But even at the same pace as last year, when the cap goes up $5 million this offseason, the number is 7.5 instead of 7.1. And I get those deals signed now on those guys. I love it. The move I like the least is the Thomas Harley one. Now, I understand Dallas is in cap trouble, but they probably cost themselves at least $6 million starting 2 years from now against cap.
Like $6 million a year?
Yeah. In 2 years, Thomas Harley is a $10 million defenseman.
You reckon? I don't know.
I reckon.
10 million. 10 million doesn't get splashed around for defensemen that much.
I said in 2 years.
Yeah, I know, but even
in 2 years, the cap's going to be $110 million.
No, it won't.
It'll be between 105 and 110, man. The cap
in
is
2
going
years.
When Harley's deal is up.
No, it won't be. It might be 100, maybe 100.
My guess is we see at least 105 in 2 years.
And
again, in 2 years, they're signing to an 8-year deal.
That'd be great. I love it. I'd love for it to go up and keep on cranking it out. They're going to run into, this is a little sidebar with the salary cap, but they're going to run into an issue because there seems to be like a lot of traction to this gambling commercials and advertisement. People are getting sick of it. Like the government is actually talking about it in Canada here. So I don't know. It's something that I think they went too hard too fast on.
I think they'll be just fine considering they're adding 2 more teams in the next couple of years to the tune of $1 billion a team. And that's why the cap's going to be 105. Yeah, that's why the cap's going to be 105. And I will say that based on the contract that Brock Faber just signed this year, Harley had 47 points in his rookie season, man. Like 15 goals. That's a $10 million defenseman in 2 years. Like I would put money on that.
Was that overly sustainable for him? Like you might have watched more Dallas games than I did.
I love
good defense.
Harley.
Don't get me wrong. He stepped in when Heiskanen was hurt, banged up for a bit this year. Did well. Yeah, $10 million D, man. Hard to say. And when I said Gunther crazy, it's just I meant crazy like you didn't see it coming, kind of thing. But
it's a great move.
What's so I used to think of like the value of a player being for every $100,000 for every point, kind of thing, was kind of the value. So if you were a 100-point player, it was like $10 million. If you were a 60-point player, it was $6 million a year. It was just kind of like the equation I did for value of like forwards and stuff like that.
Yeah, but your equation's pretty outdated. That was on a $80 million cap.
What's it now? That's what I'm thinking. It's like 1.2 point or 120,000 per point or something like that. Anyways.
I'll say this. The equation will change every year for the next 10 to 15 years, barring another pandemic. If you look at the revenues of the league and how they've grown in the last 15 years versus the revenues of any other major sports league in North America, those caps and those dollars going to the players have like increased tenfold, and the NHL has like doubled. So the NHL has a lot of room to make up in terms of salary, and there's no reason the cap isn't going to just keep on going up and up and up now that the escrow's paid off. So I'm fairly certain, and I say this with conviction. My guess is 90% of the deals that are signed from the start of this summer until the end of this season are going to be contracts that are very desirable to have in cap leagues and contracts that no team is going to regret giving out. Because even if you signed like a Darnell Nurse contract right now, in 3 years, you can chop $3 million off that. That's been the issue with Darnell Nurse's contract, is the cap was stagnant and they paid him based on the fact they thought the cap would keep going up for the first few years. That's been the real issue. Really hurt Edmonton, really hurt Toronto. They signed all these guys to peak value thinking they'd get some value back, and it didn't happen when the cap froze. But the cap ain't going to freeze for a while. I love all the long-term deals. Thomas Harley, to me, is a misstep, but I don't know how much choice they necessarily had with Ben and Sagan still on the books. If I was Dallas, I might have looked to have moved a contract or two to get longer term with a guy like Harley. I do love him. How sustainable is it? He is a very, very good offensive player. It wouldn't surprise me all that much if he ends up taking some power play time from Miro Heiskanen this year. And there's quite a few people on Twitter now saying, not that it matters, but that wouldn't surprise him if Harley outscores Heiskanen this year. And I wouldn't be that shocked either. Heiskanen's in all situations guy a lot more than Harley is. So it wouldn't shock me to see him get some pretty good deployment. But in any event, don't like that contract. Love Genther. Moritz Seider, to me, that's going to be the best defensive contract in the league the second Makar gets an extension. And I like the Raymond deal. All good. And Sweeney needs to figure it out and pay Swayman. Like today he needs to pay. What are they? I haven't seen a misstep like this in net since Luongo and Schneider. Hey,
It's tough, man. Like as a Bruins fan, you're just you get it. You get it from both sides. Swayman's like, I'm the guy. I was the guy in the playoffs. You traded the other guy. I'm the guy. I know how the business works. I went to business school. You guys screwed me around in arbitration. And now I want to get paid. And Sweeney and the Bruins are saying, well, you haven't played more than 40 games in a season. You've played like 35 and 40 some. Like, how do we know that you're sustainably going to be a starting goalie? That's the hill that they're kind of like fighting on. But the Bruins have no leg to stand on in this situation unless they think goaltending is replaceable. That's the only thing. So
yeah,
they want to run with
played their hand here.
They want to run with
Corpusalo
and Bussy or Busso or whatever his name is. Who's a AHL
you
guy?
had it right the first time, Bussy.
It's a good goalie. I honestly, like, sometimes you got to look at it and be like, is it worth to have a $9 million goalie?
Well, then you got to trade him.
Well, I know, but that's like the question. It's like, do you want a $9 million goalie? That, it's not like Shesterkin. He's done it year after year for like 4 or 5 years, for sure. But
so are you saying that you don't think that Swayman is a $9 million goalie, or are you saying he has to play 100 more games before you'll think he's a $9 million goalie?
I'm not 100% certain that he's a $9 million goalie. Only because he was a tandem. He's one of the best tandems we've seen in years. Where Allmark won the Vezina. So Allmark was the man 2 years ago. Swayman took the lead this year. He had a great year, amazing playoffs. But how do you know that's not a hot streak? How do you know, what happens if you have, and this can happen with any player, but let's say you can't handle the workload, and then something like Demko happens there. And now you have a $9 million LTIR that you can't replace because you can't carry a $6 million goalie. And then when Swayman comes back, you got a $9 million goalie. it's a tough situation. Paying goalies is tough. Like it's risky. Everyone's got to do it. That's why I love the tandem game.
Yeah, the issue there is they traded half their tandem and then negotiated, and they gave away all their leverage. And at this point, Swayman might get more than he's asking when Jonas Korpisalo and Busi Brando can't handle the workload, can't handle the games. Like I get where Boston's coming from, saying that maybe an 8 out of 10 goalie can do really well in Boston, but they've got a 5 and a question mark right now. So they're in big trouble. As per the you don't necessarily know what you have, that's fine. I always err on the side of I prefer to give the Genthers and the Raymonds the term now, again, because the cap's going up. A $9 million goalie today is a $7 million goalie in 3 years, is a 6.5 in 5 years. Like, get him signed. And I'm not sure the number is 9 either. Word is that they've given him like a $6 million offer. If you can get to 8 on a 7-year deal, like, do it. Get it done.
Yeah.
That's going to be a good deal. I don't disagree that 9's a little high, but the thing is, the time for that conversation was when Allmark was still on the roster. Then you can leverage that against him. Hey, tell you what, you're sick of being a tandem goalie. You want to get paid like a number one? Okay, the number is this, and we'll deal Allmark. It's not like what they got from Ottawa was can't turn down. Why did they make that deal when they did? They ended up getting like a second out of it overall if you take into consideration what they had to pay to move salary afterwards. Like, it was just a bad chain of events where it was like, what was the motivation to do that now and lose all your leverage?
I think his trade protection list changed on the 1st.
That might be right, yeah. Although Ottawa was not on his list.
Yeah.
So anyways, it's I pay the young guys right now. I absolutely pay them. Yeah.
I'm with it.
It's a silly line to draw in the sand at this point.
The hard part is, and like my dad was just like, well, you just pay the guy and all this and that. And I was just kind of like, it's not like Sweeney and the Bruins are like going to pocket this money and put it into Jeremy Jacobs, trust fund for his great grandkids. So they want to save as much money on a goalie so they could spread it out amongst the team. So it's a tricky spot, but you have no choice but to like work this out.
For the sake of the conversation, the Bruins are currently projected to have $8.6 million cap space. Like, if that's not enough to get a deal done, like, it has to be. There is a term where Swayman would absolutely take 8.6. Is that number 4 years? Probably higher. Like, I think a 6-year 8.6, that gets done today. Like, get it done. It won't matter until we're... Hey?
He'd be insane to turn that down. Like, come on.
I agree.
He's a goalie.
I think 6 years, 8.6 makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Dude, get it done. Get it done. Anyways, get Swayman done. I don't like the length of the Harley deal. Next up on my things to talk about that are fantasy relevant, and I think all contract talk is fantasy relevant because any of these guys are worth acquiring in a long-term cap league right now. Genther, great, do it. Raymond, do it. Like, especially if you can move a $10 million guy right now or a guy whose contract is up in the next 2 or 3 years. Get it done. I made a deal for, it was a fairly big deal, but the main pieces were Celebrini and Korchinski for Sebastian Aho and Charlie McAvoy. This is a league where I'm all in, and I got both guys at 25% retention. So Aho at 7.2, McAvoy at 7.1. Long-term, best player, I lose the deal. Year one, I definitely, because Korchinski might start in the AHL, I definitely win that deal. Year two, I probably win that deal. Year three, if Celebrini is what we think he is, I lose that deal because you're getting ELC cost for a 90-point player. But year four, when Celebrini gets paid 13, 14 million bucks, I'm happy to have the Aho side again at 7 million, So like, get those cheap contracts on your team, get them as long-term as you can, because you're going to come out ahead long-term. And from a trade value perspective, a guy like Genther at 7 million bucks is going to be more valuable than a guy like Barkov in 2 years, Like, that extra 3-4 million bucks against the cap makes all the difference in the world in cap leagues.
It's so tricky. Like in our league, where I'm rebuilding. I refuse to use the word tanking in our group chat.
Well, you
Where I'm
definitely are
rebuilding.
tanking.
Yeah. And I've got Michkov, just got Celebrini this year. If it comes to me again with Hagens, like, I don't need another $13-14 million player in 3 years. So I'll either have to look to flip one of them, or and our league's hard to explain because our contracts are a little funny with ELCs and re-signing guys. But yeah, it's tough when you have those, when you draft those elite players that turn into, like, coming around the bend are going to be 13 mil plus guys. And so you can't afford to keep them. So you might as well trade them while they have high value with their entry level contract.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. Yeah, there's a balancing act there, because the way I've always done well in cap leagues is to have, you assume at the start of the year it's a 20-man roster with $100 million cap. So you've got $5 million a guy. So every guy you get who outperforms the average player for less than 5 mil gives you an extra bump to spend somewhere else, that you can spend on a Panarin, or you can spend on a 1 year. Like, that's how you win leagues,
those guys,
in my opinion.
Kopitar, like guys that are hanging around.
Yeah, absolutely. The next thing, speaking of Kopitar, that I find very interesting, and I think is something that's worth predicting now, and let's see how it goes over the next 12 months. Buy Los Angeles Kings players this year, because they have officially announced they are leaving the 1-3-1. So what does this mean for your LA players, or players you're looking at? LA goalies, not a sure thing, or, a bit of a bump in those late rounds anymore. And I think their top players are going to break out this year. I'm talking about Fiala. I'm talking about Bysted. I'm talking about Doughty / Brant Clark. Maybe this is the year for you to make your prediction from last year. Kempe could easily hit 50 goals if they're not out there trapping every year. You want to do it again? What do you say?
I was just a year behind. I didn't read the tea leaves
just like high
last
school,
year.
hey? Just a year behind.
Exactly. I didn't read the tea leaves last year to be like McClellan doing the 1-3-1 and all that. So it's yeah. Well, hey, and they got Byfield centering his own line, I think, this year too. I think he's off the top line with Kopitar.
Their camp lines, it was actually like it was written up as he was line 3 with Fiala, but I think he'll be line 2. They had Deneau as the second line center. That doesn't make any sense, but it's Fiala, Byfield. I can't remember who the third one is. I don't care. I love that line in a more offensive system.
Yeah.
Look for them both. Yeah, it's going to be a breakout year for them. And for all you Darcy Kuemper owners, condolences if you thought you were getting a steal late. He's going to be the Darcy Kuemper of last year. They might have to change back because their goaltending is going to be so bad, but they are giving it a shot to be more offensive. And God knows, like, you're playing the Oilers in round 1 this year. The 1-3-1 doesn't work. Commit to something. Try something else, because you're not winning like this.
Yeah. Well, it's both conferences. It's going to be a dogfight to make the playoffs for those 7, 8, 9 teams. It's it'll be good.
There's one more thing I'd like to talk about around the NHL, because I've been reading a little bit of just forums and on social media. There are some people talking about Utah and how all in on Utah they are. Now, you and I had this discussion a little bit. We don't even have this in our notes. I just figured let's do one more NHL thing. You are pretty high on Utah this year, yeah?
The Coyotes were projecting to improve and start to make a playoff push. Everyone's a year older, and I don't know, there's probably something intoxicating going on in Utah, but I like their team. I like their players. I like their forwards, and then their D's getting better.
Where do you think they end up in the conference this year?
That division. So let's look in the division. So you got Dallas, Colorado, Nashville, Winnipeg are probably the top 4 teams. And then, are they better than St. Louis? They're better than Chicago.
Yeah, I'd say they're better than those 2 teams.
Am I missing a team in the Central?
In the Central, we covered Winnipeg, Utah, St. Louis, Nashville, Minnesota, Dallas, Colorado, Chicago.
Oh yeah, Minnesota. I didn't say. Yeah, they're probably right around Minnesota right now.
You said Colorado, Dallas, Nashville are ahead of them?
Colorado, Dallas, Nashville, and probably Winnipeg.
Probably Winnipeg too.
So they'd be fighting for a wild card spot. That last wild card spot is where I'd see them
from the
now.
Pacific, you've got Edmonton, LA, Vancouver, Vegas. So I
say Vegas, or not Vegas, LA, Utah, fighting for that last spot.
That's not a bad prediction. Yeah, probably fighting for that 8th spot. I like that. I'm not totally opposed to that.
Well,
they won't be there long because Chicago's coming for a spot.
Yeah, but Utah's getting better too. Like wait till what Logan Cooley puts together this year. Like he's gonna be flying out there.
You want to put out a prediction on Logan Cooley?
I won't get too aggressive, but I'd say like 70 points is well within the realm.
It sounded like you're going to be more aggressive than that. Wait till Logan Cooley. I was like, what does he think this guy's doing?
No, but he's going to look good. That's the thing. Like,
I mean, if we're talking about guys that just look good, I mean, wait till you see Zegras' new haircut. Like that shit's fire. He looks good. He's going to be out there looking good. Point total? 65 points, 70 points.
You and guys' hockey hair, I tell you. I don't know. There's something.
Have I talked about hockey hair more than once?
I don't know. Just Zegras' hair. What did he do with his hair? Has he got cornrows going in or what?
No, it's pretty rockin' mullet. It's good hair, man. I myself have zero hair, so it's hard for me to judge. But I will say, let's see here. I'll show you, since clearly you're off the internet today. You didn't know anything about that contract. So let's see. So man, can I find it? It's a good mullet. Here we go. Here it is right here. You ready for Zegras hair?
I'm so ready. For
all of our viewers at home, this is Zegras' new haircut.
Oh, that's kind of sweet. That's like that's almost like AC Slater hair.
What is it with you and AC Slater, man?
He's the man. Slater was the man. Kidding me?
The beauty. Anyways, Cooley at 70 points isn't actually something I'd probably disagree with. That's a fairly rational projection. I think that if he's their highest scoring player at 70 points, they're in trouble. But, we'll see what happens. Let's move on.
I'd say Keller's like point per game this year.
Yeah, Keller's going to be point per game. I agree with that. Yeah. Let's move on to rookie camp stuff. You want to move on to some rookie camp stuff?
Yeah, buddy.
All right. Where do you want to start at rookie camp?
Right here.
Is that a picture of AC Slater? You're pointing at.
You know what I'm pointing.
The Philadelphia Flyers. All right, go on your boy Michkov.
Oh, he was awesome. Yeah, we both watched that game. It was every time he touched the puck. As the game went on, he got better. He made it look like what Bedard looked like in the dub in his draft year. It was just like he was just head and shoulders better than everyone and just kind of do whatever he wanted. So
yeah, the only problem I have with that description is he should be head and shoulder better than everyone in that game. Like Luchenko was good. Sure. I was pretty impressed by Luchenko. He held his own. But who was the third best player in that game, man? Like in terms of like a top 200 prospects, who's the third best guy? The Rangers had Othman and what?
I don't even know if they had. Well, not that it would matter if Emery was playing from this year's draft.
Sure, let's say he was. I don't remember either.
The Flyers would have had Rizzo, who was just a late round draft pick.
Giveaway in the
he looked great. It was.
He did look great. He did. Yeah. He did.
It's a rookie tournament game.
It's better than everyone else. Of course he was. He's a top 3 prospect
in
the world.
That's what you want. Like, okay, we'll use an Oilers prospect, Savoy. He should have dominated those games, and he did not. If he is a top tier prospect, he should have dominated those games in the prospect tournament, and he did not. And not to dog on the guy or anything like that, because that happens in prospect tournament. But if you're a top tier guy and you dominate the games and you're the best player on the ice, that is a lot of reassurance as a fan, a fantasy owner, that yes, this what we think we have is likely what we have. Kind of.
I'll give you that. The only thing I would say is I think that some rookies come into rookie camp looking to make an impact, and other rookies come into rookie camp looking to make the team at the real camp. And I'd say Savoy is in the latter. I always think back to it. You and I were together for this. Back in the Hope days, do you remember Magnus Pajärvi Svensson's 4-goal game?
Mm-hmm.
Remember what I said
Was
after
it 4
that
or
game?
3? I think it was 3, but doesn't
Maybe
matter.
it was just, I thought it was 4 points, maybe. Anyways, it's a preseason game from 100 years ago. Do you remember what I said after that game? He might be the best of them all. Forget Hall. Forget everything. We were watching this game in Calgary. And then, as soon as it got to preseason action, he disappeared. And Hall and Ebb started stepping up. And they separate. I'm not saying Michkov won't separate. I am defending Savoy a little bit. If there's a guy in your league who thinks Savoy is trash because he didn't do well in Penticton, buy him. Because he was great in camp today, apparently, which is, it's camp. I do think that some of those guys who are in their D4s and D5s, rookie camp doesn't mean anything to them, Whereas the next guy we're going to talk about, a guy like Yuri Kulich, he's going to come in there, be the best player every single game. He's going to fill the stat sheet because he's sick of being left off that team. He's going to do really well in camp too. He's going to force himself to get a spot. So sometimes the situation, I think, is a little bit like they might be looking past a rookie game.
I don't know if it's so much looking past a rookie game. I think with a guy like Savoy is like skill does better playing with skill. And so
I was just going to say the same thing. Yeah. Who's he playing with?
Yeah. So it could be a combination of that. Because all players are different. A lot of players feed off of playing with really good players. A lot of players are line drivers. I don't think Savoy is necessarily a line driver. Even if you look in Moose Jaw, Frickus probably ran the boat on that line there, and so
Savoy had his own line, at least in the playoffs.
I don't mean to dog on Savoy. It was a prospect.
No, it's a fair comment. I have no problem with what you're saying. For me, it's more of a, and I had this discussion just the other day with a guy or two where I said, I used to care what happens at rookie camp. I no longer care. Because the competition is like so up and down. Michkov dominated every guy he faced in that first game for sure. I agree. I'm happy to see that. It's in general, I really temper how I feel about guys based on rookie camps. I try not to change my opinion at all on a player based on those 2 or 3 games, just because there's so many factors. Once I see how they look in preseason, I'm willing to start changing my mind. If Savoy comes in, not that we're just talking about him, but if Savoy comes in to preseason, doesn't look good, puts up 0 points, I might start to put up some alarm bells, but they're not ringing right now. So we talked about Kulich. What a freaking tournament he had, whatever you want to call it, 3 games. He had 5 points in 2 games, 3 goals, something like that. His preseason numbers were insane. Looked amazing on that side for Buffalo. Every time the puck came to him on the power play, it was in the back of the net. Had a nice deke, had a beautiful assist. That kid is determined, and currently he and Benson are swapping out action on the second line in Buffalo camp. So that's worth keeping an eye on. I have said since the McLeod trade, I think that Benson and McLeod might be a third pair or a third line shutdown. I can still see that. You don't put Kulich on the third line, but Benson and McLeod could make some noise together, even though I do think that's underutilizing Benson, but keep his contract down a bit, maybe.
Well, if they could, let's imagine Ryan McLeod trade didn't happen. And doesn't matter Savoy, but if they could somehow figure out a way for Dylan Cousins to be your third line center, and then you have Benson, Kulich with another second line center in there, be pretty nice.
Well, you're underutilized. Like Jack Quinn isn't going anywhere other than maybe up.
Yeah, I think eventually he goes up. So like, let's say you figure out a way where Jack Quinn goes up, plays with Tage and Peterka, and then you have a Benson, Kulich, whoever's second line center, and then third line you have Cousins, Tuck, Greenway. It's a pretty solid third line too. So it's I would like them to go that route. Again, Cousins had a down year, so I might just be a little bit down on him because I think he had close to 70 points the year before. So he might bounce back, but I think everyone was down in Buffalo last year. We'll see.
Yeah,
Lindy,
I agree with that.
my buddy said he loved all the cream in Lindy's hands from last weekend's pod. Well, the cream rises to the cream rises to the top in Buffalo, and you said Ruff's got a lot of cream on his hands. Yeah, he sent me a message. He had a good chuckle on that one.
Man, I was tired for last week's episode. I don't remember that at all.
You know what? I love the format of us coming to the table with our own lists and arguing it and sticking your heels in when you need to, and giving and taking. It was good. It was fun.
It was fun. My only complaint is there was a video clip posted of us talking about Yzerman, and your stance was made crystal clear, and mine was not. So I'd like to reiterate, Debert and I do not agree on
because your
on
stance
Yzerman.
made no sense. That's why. As muddy as
I did have a lot of fun with it. I thought that was a really good time. Lekkerimaki looked very good in Penticton. Yep. We did talk about him. There was some good clips there of him being tailor made for that top line in Vancouver. I like him. I've got him in 3 of 6 keeper leagues this year. He's a guy that I traded Elias Pettersson for Lekkerimaki, Maverick Bork, and a first. So I am high on the guy. I like him a lot. I'm not sure it's this year for him. Maybe injuries open it up. Certainly putting him on the top line this year would be a little bit of I'm not sure, but like with Bozer, who knows? Bozer's not a guy I'm looking to give a long-term contract to. There could be a slot there, and he did look very, very good in Penticton.
He's poised to do well. It's like it's tailor made for him to step in and do well in Vancouver. Whether he needs a year in the A or not, I'm not sure, but. Yeah, we'll see.
That shot is amazing. There were 2 shots in the World Juniors. We talked about. I said this exact thing last week, but him and Snuggie just like hitting crossbar down, and like I think on the same day. And I was just like, I can't remember seeing 2 shots like that from 2 different players in one day. It was amazing. Okay, here's the next one, and I think that this is an interesting conversation point, and obviously these guys were close together. You want to talk about Demidov for a bit?
Sure.
Let's talk about Demidov. I'm sure that you know what he did yesterday.
Insert clip. Yeah. Insert clip.
Roll the clip, Jimmy.
Yeah.
We're rolling the clip. He had himself a game. So he has been third and fourth line, albeit on the third line with Kuznetsov, former, Stanley Cup champion, top line center in Washington. They'd kind of been bumping in between the third and fourth line, 15, 16 minutes a game. Well, yesterday he said it doesn't matter. He put up 2 goals to assist. His first goal, I think it was his first goal of the night. Did you see it?
Yeah.
The rocket? Roll the clip. Unbelievable. NHL shot. Came down and just wired it from like 40 feet out. Goalie didn't even see it. Like it was just, and it was in and out. It was out as fat. Like I don't even think the ref caught it right off the hop. He looks very, very good. He had a heck of a preseason in the KHL. And the question on everyone's mind right now, and I don't think you're slagging the other guy at any point, who has the higher ceiling between Michkov and Demidov? They've been sort of neck and neck along the way in terms of what they did in the MHL and in the VHL and in the KHL. And this is a big test for Demidov, but so far he looks to be passing it with flying colors, Teebs.
Great start. Given the opportunities that he's given with SKA or SKA, you had to take it and put up 4 points. And how many? What game number was that? Like 5th game or so?
I think he has 6 points in 5 games now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe
So
it's 7 and 6. Like it shot him slightly over a point per game.
yeah. Like I
And
think comparison wise between him and Mitchkov is, I think their potential is probably equal. Really, to be honest, I think they're probably pretty close to being a similar player. Because they both did
in
it
terms
at
of
the same
output or like how they
Yeah.
look.
output. Yeah,
Yeah, I agree. I think
Yeah.
that their strengths are wildly different.
yeah,
Demidov is a zone entry kind of guy. He's a beat you with this. It's funny because some well-known prospect guys have questioned his skating. His skating is elite. He has a crazy stance, but man, he looks like Makar out there. It's ridiculous.
Guys don't know what they're dealing with him. You know who he reminds me of? I was watching clips the other day, and I was like, oh, exactly. For me, he is like the forward version of Lane Hudson out there. The way he can like
good one,
juke
yeah.
and jive and like head fakes and like guys don't know which way he's going, and his feet are like pointing out like that.
Yeah, it is that 0 degree skating stance.
Yeah,
as well.
you're just
he's
like,
Lane Hudson with speed is what it
Yeah,
is. Because Hudson's often at a standstill. Demidov does it at top speeds.
Yeah.
It's just like he's by a guy with half a move. You know, it's ridiculous.
It's wild.
Yeah, it is.
Man, I wish Chicago would have taken him, but oh well.
That would have been something else, man. I do think that these two, for the remainder of their time on our list, are going to be right there beside each other, and it's a heck of a comparison. It's going to be really fun to watch. I think we've got this generation's Gino,
and Will Smith too, because Will Smith
Gino
and
Ovi.
Demidov are actually fairly similar players too, and they're like right in that window too.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know who I'd take. Right now, I'd probably lean Demidov, but Smith certainly has the potential to change my mind. I mean, I'm happy to own any of those guys, and I own all of them across these 6 leagues. But it's one of those things. I don't know if we've ever talked about like owning stock in a guy. Well, you're only in the one league right for now, starting up a second one right away.
I was thinking of like us having a segment where it's like we take a sec to like pump our own players' tires. You know?
Isn't that the whole show?
No. Hey, like in when we were ranking guys, like I was put. What was one? I put like Levshunov. I was like, well, he could take Korchinski's spot. I'm a Korchinski owner. I don't want him to take Korchinski's spot in Chicago, but yeah, think of the possibility.
Yeah, but you also don't want to look stupid, right? Like I think there's a healthy balance of liking our own.
I think it's
guys
only a
right
matter
now.
of time before I do that, but it's yeah. Not with Yzerman, though. I'll tell you that much. Not with Yzerman.
What was your timeline on him? 3 years?
Yeah, I figure he's got, like, ideally 2 years in college, or a year.
Was
two
the
full
number
seasons.
3? Was the number 3? Was
He
it 3
comes.
years?
He comes out next year. Burns that year, maybe not, and then he goes and does a year in the AHL. Oh,
I cannot believe that I have to wait 3+ years to reap the rewards of you being wrong on that one. It's ridiculous. I don't have that kind of patience. Like, what does my life even look like in 3 years when Yzerman's a bust and I can say I told you so? You know, like it's going to be a bit. The next thing I'd like to talk about is Scott Morrow. Very interesting player.
Hey.
A guy we talked about last year a lot. And there's an opportunity in Carolina this year for him to make an impression before Nikishin shows up. He had 5 assists in 3 rookie games and looked very good amongst a host of very good Carolina prospects. That team is stupidly well built. Like Gleb Trekizov had a hat trick. And like, where does he rank on the Carolina prospect list? I realize, again, it's a game. It's a rookie game. But like Jackson Blake, you got Felix Ungersorum. This kid's just out there doing that. You got Scott Moore. You got Nikishin, whose point per game through the first 3 games in the KHL right now, scored a rocket of a point shot this morning, yesterday. I'm not sure how Russia time works. It's different than ours. Goal and 2 assists in 3 games. Like, that system's just insane. And now you got Scott Morrow, the often forgotten about guy, Looks like he's ready to come in and say, like, don't you forget about me.
Yeah, he's going to be stepping into the A, and I assume he'll be playing in the A this year and stepping into power play 1, 20 minutes a night. It'd be really good for his development. Doesn't surprise me. He did well in the prospect tournament. He was almost point per game in college the last 2 seasons. So yeah, the guy's got tons of skill. He's getting the confidence to play it at a pro game, and he will, because his bread and butter is being a two-way, leaning more offensive defenseman. So he'll put his hat in the ring for being that guy in Carolina.
Yeah, he's gonna have to blow the doors off, because the one thing about that spot that is available right now potentially is that with 10 games left in the season, Nikishin's gonna come in and take it unless you don't let him. So like AHL start, whatever, he has to get up to the pros and he has to make a mark, because once Nikishin's there, Morrow's role changes on that team forever. Unless he can, force them not to. That's it for our rookie camp stuff. There's a lot more we could have talked about, but in all honesty, like I kind of said earlier, and I think you agree, I'm ready to talk about preseason games. I'm ready to talk about how the rookies look there, because I think it's a lot more concerning or interesting or value changing. There are some single year league / trade targets I'd like to talk about if you'll entertain me here. Some early camp notes and what we've seen from lineups. Now, obviously, it's the second day of camp. There's only so much stock you can put in this stuff, but real quick, I would just like to fly through and maybe focus on a couple of these. So the first one is JJ Peterka on line 1 in Buffalo with Tuck and Tage. This is the guy I'm targeting a bit later in the one. I think I only have one draft left. It's an auction draft. This is a guy I'm throwing a little bit out and hoping he falls to me, because people just don't know. He's going to light it up this year as far as I'm concerned. You think?
Yeah, his projection's great. Didn't he have he's the highest? What was the thing? Anyway, it was something with being a German-born player that stat came up last year, where he was the highest points per game in the first 2 seasons of German.
Oh, that wouldn't surprise me, because Draisaitl wasn't good the first season.
Yeah,
this is the guy who I
cherry pick stat.
Yeah. Buffalo should be signing him today. Give him a bag. Get 8 years. You're about to roll him out on first line power play and first line, and you're leaving him unsigned. Like, no. Give him.
The crazy thing about Peterka is he stole that spot from players that were way higher than him on the prospect ranking and have greater pedigree, draft selection. So yeah, he has stepped in and has proven his moxie and has taken that spot and doing it playing two-way hockey too, which is really impressive.
Yeah, I saw, I think 3 of the final Buffalo games last year, because I was really interested. As soon as they bumped him up to top line, he stirred the drink for Buffalo. Like, it wasn't Tage, it wasn't Tuck, it was him. He was amazing on that top line, and I just think they're absolutely out of their minds to let him go unsigned, because what could be a 6 or at worst a $7 million long-term contract right now is going to go up in the next year. I have no doubt about it, unless he gives him a discount. But why would you do that given the depth of Buffalo? So,
6 times 7 or something like that would be nice for both sides. Do you think Tage bounces back?
Yes.
Like 90 points bounce back?
Like pushes 50 goals bounce back, yes.
Yeah.
I think he'll score again.
He
had a hurt wrist last year. He had 2 injuries. I can't remember what the other one was. He came back early. I think it was like a wrist and calf something. He was banged up all year. Buffalo can't get worse than last year. He's still young enough. And if you remember that 50-goal season, which was, 2 years ago, the guy can score in any way imaginable. He's got the hands. His shot is disgusting. They have talent out the ass on that power play. I am absolutely a Tage Thompson bounce back guy. Like, I don't gamble, but if I knew what the odds were for Tage hitting 40, I'd probably put money on it. Maybe I should look. Is there like a internet type device where I can punch in betting odds? I'll figure it out. The next guy, interesting, but nothing's really changed. Mathew Knies is on line 1 with Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews, so keep an eye out for that. Even strength, really only that that Toronto power play is fairly locked up. This one I think is really interesting in cap leagues and just in general. Viktor Olofsson will be playing line 1 with Vegas, playing with his old buddy Jack Eichel, and these two made some noise together back in Buffalo.
Well, they're fairly thin on the wings outside of Mark Stone, until March. And then who else do they have on the wings? They got
a guy I've got my eye on is
they lost a lot in the last couple of years.
They did. I like Dorofiev a lot.
Yeah,
he's starting on the second line, and that guy's got a shot, man. Like he can score from distance.
Yeah, sure, but I don't know. Vegas is just their blue line is their cup team, and their goaltending.
Yeah, their blue line is probably the best blue line in hockey.
Yeah, we'll see. But they, if Olofsson's going with Eichel's gonna have to really carry this team offensively coming up here. So, I
don't know.
Eichel, Hurdle, and then Stone. So they're not bad. I forgot about Hurdle there for a second, but not awful. But yeah, that's a good one for guys to look at if you're in a 1-year keeper to snag up. So this is the time where you can. It depends. So if you have your draft coming up, so you want to pay close attention to these lines that they have at camp. Who do you like to what websites do you like to look at for depth charts and stuff like that?
Twitter. During the year, it's Daily Faceoff.
Yeah, Daily Faceoff.
I'm on Daily Faceoff right now. So filling out the top 6 for Vegas is Barbashev and Dorofiev, who we mentioned. They're not as bad as you've indicated potentially, though. Their third line is Brisson, Carlson, Holtz. That line has potential. It has potential to backfill Barbashev and Dorofiev. But I mean Holt. Yeah, I mean he was in our top 50 last year. He never really got a fair shake. And he's playing with William Karlsson, who I think is a player who is a perfect center for Holtz to play with. He can cover for him. He's a good playmaker. He can finish off nice plays. And Holtz is a guy who might benefit from that with third line competition. So I don't hate that.
Third line ice though too. So it's tough. But yeah, I could be very, very wrong. So on that,
I do. Vegas is such a good system team, man. They'll be a threat this year. Lekkerimaki, we talked about starting on line 1. Another interesting one, and I'm not sure how late this guy is dropping, but it looks like Wyatt Johnston is going to be on the top line in Dallas to start the year. Their top line for the first 2 days was Hintz, Johnston, and Demidov, who's obviously a placeholder for the injured Robertson. That's great news for Johnston. Hey?
That Stank was going to be up on that line.
No, Stankoven is still hanging out with Ben. I'll bring up what they had.
Who's the center on that line, though?
They had on that line, it's Maverick Bork. So their third line currently. Yeah. Maverick Bork, Jamie Benn, Logan Stankoven. Second line being Marchment, Duchesne, and Seguin. So second and third, I think, are fairly interchangeable.
Was Bork center in the AHL too for that line?
For that,
for
Stank, he was a center in the AHL.
He was a center in the yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So Dallas once again, 3 lines deep. They've increased their defensive depth enough that they're not going to be rolling 5 defensemen all off season. Well, they might. They got Dumba. We'll see how it goes. Man, they really need to fill it in. This one's a little bit interesting anyways. As a late round flyer, you may want to look at Duclair. Anthony Duclair is starting with Bo Horvat and Matt Barzell, and will be getting a look on the power play. So I don't much like to have Islanders on my team that aren't Noah Dobson, but Duclair late in your drafts might be worth a look. Now, this is something I want to talk about. Tragic. The Columbus top line this year is Boone Jenner, Sean Monahan, and Marchenko. Is that the worst first line on a non-first year team that the NHL has ever seen?
I don't know. Yeah, it's all just bad over there.
It begs the question, for players we do like in Columbus, like say a Fantilli, Matejchuk, Jiricek, maybe you like Kent Johnson. Who are these guys playing with? Like Boone Jenner and Kirill Marchenko are on the top line with Sean Monahan as their center. And let's not forget that 3 short years ago, Calgary paid a first to dump Columbus's now first line center. Now he has bounced back since then. But like, what is happening? Columbus has got to have one of the worst forward cores. Period. Like, I can't even remember a first line as bad as that. You know, you think about like what was Vegas's top line in their first season? It turned out to be pretty good. They had William Karlsson and Marchessault. Seattle became a high-scoring team year 2 of its existence. This is like we're in the how many 10th year of Columbus, and like this is what we're doing now. I understand what happened this offseason.
But that's the thing. They weren't good with Johnny either.
They weren't. That's exactly what I was about to say. Is it was bad when he was there. Now it's worse.
Let's not avoid, the tragedy that happened, but also know that it's a. So Waddell's got his work cut out for him. He's probably going to have to turn over most of that team. To outside of keeping Fantilli, Brindley, a couple of their defensive prospects.
The defensemen, yeah.
But like all those guys are just like. They're like heartbroken. He's gonna have to turn over that whole team. Everyone's gonna need somewhere else to play eventually. And so
are you saying like is this year 1 of a miserable new rebuild?
Probably, yeah.
Like it probably is,
yeah.
Man.
Their goaltending is awful. Blue Jackets fans. Their blue line, like get the young guys in, keep them away this year. So it's like you guys, no. Yeah, young players should not be around what's going to happen, how it's going to go this year. It's heartbreaking, man. Like Monahan's sitting beside Johnny's empty locker.
You saw that, isn't that
like that's geez. like it makes me want to cry when I.
That's the second saddest thing. It's awful to say it. The two, I'm not going to rank them. The 2 saddest things I saw since Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final were Sean Monahan beside John Gaudreau's locker. That image came out yesterday. Unbelievable. Like, unbelievable. Just so heart-wrenching. That's right up there with, did you see the clip of the Oilers Game 7 after they're all sitting in the locker room as you can hear Bettman presenting the cup? Yeah. And they announced McDavid as the MVP. Like, that hurt. I'm an Oilers fan. That hurt. That Monahan image was right there. With that video, for me, is just one of those things that you're not going to forget that ever seeing that. It's an
impossible situation for the organization because it's like I know they're trying to do it right, having Johnny's locker stick around and all that. We're not moving on. This is part of our growth and everything like that. It's an impossible situation. There was no right or wrong way to go about it, but yeah, you got to feel for the guys because it's like, and like this is a job for a lot of them. At this point, but they're also like living out a dream of theirs and of like everyone that watches hockey. Like this was like we look up to these guys as like these guys are living the dream, and then they have it's gotta be hard.
Yeah, it's rough. I don't mean to pick on them. I wanted to more discuss the implications on the players we like in Columbus.
Yeah,
I'm always targeting young players, guys on ELCs, especially in leagues where you don't have to sign them right away, like ours. I was looking at a Fantilli deal, and I could not justify the cost because it's like, how long until this guy has a player who can make him better playing with him?
And don't forget, leading into that draft, we both saw a little something in Fantilli that just was off. It just was like,
well, we don't have to get into that.
the tunnel vision, but it's so you mix that with, who's he going to be able to play with? What kind of stability is he going to have within that organization of growing with players and things like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do think that he still has certainly 40-40 potential. There are some red flags, as there often are with guys. I think our discussion was more in terms of justifying a Leo Carlson ahead of Fantilli, which I stand by is probably the right choice. But yeah, at this point, it's hard to buy a guy who's like, if he's playing online too, who's the next winger up? Like it's Kent Johnson. It's just not pretty. Who do you think runs the power play in Toronto this year from the point deep?
I don't know, but I just had like this sneaky feeling that they're going to try Oliver Ekman-Larsson back there. Morgan Riley's been good, but remember last year they kind of brought in Klingberg. It was obviously in their mindset that, hey, maybe Riley would be more effective with a few less minutes. Put him out on the penalty kill, yada yada yada. And Oliver Ekman-Larsson has been known to be able to run a power play quite well in the past. He scored over 20 goals in this league, although that was like well over 5 years ago. But
Who did Brett Hull? Let's bring him back and put him on the power play. You're
if
going
they
back
could,
almost
they
that
would.
far.
If they
I
could,
did
they
look
would.
at this. So Ekman-Larsson, his last, I don't know what his ice time was like necessarily with Florida. I know what I saw in the playoffs when they put him on the power play, and it wasn't good. His last effective season on the power play was, come on, internet, there you are. I'll just go back. Last season, 11 points, 5 the year before in Vancouver, obviously blocked by Quinn Hughes, 10 the year before in Vancouver. This would be the last year I think that he ran power play 1. And this was in 2020, 2021. He had 14 points in Arizona running the power play. The year before that, and that was in 46 games. The year before that, he had in 66 games, he had 7 points. And then before that, now we see those prime seasons going back to 2018-19. He had 19 points on the power play, 15, 19, 27. So I think...
So he's only about 7 years removed from
power play. 7 years, 4 teams.
Hey, you know what? It was worth.
This is all to say we don't know what we're talking about.
To like
look at it.
but if they can find a way, I'm sure if they could find a way to reduce Morgan Riley's minutes, maybe gets a different look in there, maybe a bigger shot, bigger one-timer shot, they would look at it. And
yes. I fully agree.
And I just picked up Ekman-Larsson today, so it makes perfect
any
sense
of those
that
things.
it would be Ekman-Larsson.
I do think he'll get
decent
PP2. I think what they're trying to actually do, this is my take, and this will be an interesting thing for us to look at the end of the year when we tally the rights and wrongs. I do think that they're probably looking to ease their minutes on power play 1 this year, similar to what I think Edmonton's going to do. So having a better PP2 guy, a priority, and Ekman-Larsson fits that bill very nicely at a very cheap cost. That's how I see it playing out, but it doesn't matter. This is all nonsense. We have crossed the 1 hour mark. Do you want to do these coattails this week, or you want to do this next week?
No, we can do it next week. Well, we'll know more as camp goes on to kind of actually give a definitive coattails of like guys who are playing with good.
Yeah, seen a few games, see who's clicking. Yeah, I agree, and we'll have lots of preseason to talk about. Man, I'm so excited. Night 1, it was the night before preseason. I'm just so ready. I'm so glad there's no UFC this week, so I can just watch hockey all day tomorrow.
Well, it only starts to 5.
I'm gonna sleep till 4. All right, the kids are gonna let me sleep till 4. It's preseason day. I get to cash in my.
Is that how it works around your house?
Absolutely not. No, I'm waking up with the kids. We're going to the park tomorrow morning. In the indoor park because it's freezing in Saskatchewan. Check this out. I got my fleecy on today. I got doubles.
So
Look at this
loud.
fleece. Oh yeah.
That
We ain't messing around, man.
You got like a P. Diddy sweatsuit on right now, or what?
You bastard. Do not. What is wrong with you? Listen, R. Kelly, we don't have to get into this sort of stuff.
Easy.
P. Diddy. You're ridiculous. You know what? I hope your internet goes down tomorrow just for that comment.
Hey.
That is, no. P. Diddy? What an awful thing to say. That is despicable.
Is it despicable?
The man is going to prison. And I don't have anywhere near any kind of connection. That's a P. Diddy. It's not. If anything, who's the guy with all the tattoos on his face? The
Little
rapper.
Wayne? Big Wayne? Lil Wayne?
No, white guy. He was on Kill Tony.
Oh, Post Malone.
Post Malone. If anything, this is Post Malone, man.
You think you're balling like Post Malone?
Listen, 20 years ago, to imply that I was balling like P. Diddy would have been ridiculous.
Okay,
You're just way behind.
You're more like a Mace type.
Mace. All right. Enjoy the hockey, Debert. I'm sure we will talk more. Enjoy the hockey, everyone, and we're looking forward to talking to you again next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Happy weekend, y'all.
There it is.